What's up? What's up? What's up? Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time at this point.
What
Uh,
time? What time is it?
40. Look at that. Not
We're
waking up late though, just in case, FYI for everyone.
we're a little early this morning, man.
Yeah, that's true. We are kind of usually it's hitting the 11 slot, but um, it'll be back. Brian, how are you doing?
I'm good, dude.
All
Here
right.
drinking some mate.
We're
There.
drinking
Oh,
some.
there it is.
There it is.
That's what's up, man.
Come on, Cannon. Come on. Come on. There we go.
Mine doesn't really have anything. Like mine
Really?
is too old. I don't know. I don't know how to show that.
That's pretty cool. You have the Oh.
It's like a little landscape of some kind.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see. Yeah, yeah. Let me say show it again, but
Oh, my bad. Here, I'll
yeah,
take it.
that's a cool. So it's very rounded.
There it is.
Oh, you look
But
like
like even the metal part just like came off. Like that's how
yeah,
old
yeah, yeah.
it used to have like some cow hair, like the same thing it has here.
Mm-hmm.
But like on this
Ah,
side, it's
yeah,
like
just rubbed off.
it's all broken. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's what the
We look like content creators, It's like, and this one right here, just gonna review it. San Martin. Come on, there you go. Te invita al volver.
yeah.
It's pretty nice.
What's cool about that one is like it's round like this one, but at the
Yeah.
bottom it looks like they put like a piece of wood there before they wrapped it in leather.
Oh, down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, and yeah, and you have like the bordes, and yeah, it's pretty. I think my uncle gave this to me for our wedding actually. So
Oh, okay, sweet. Did you guys go to San Martin or?
yeah, I mean we would go when we would go visit um
Oh, okay, San Martin from Argentina.
from Argentina. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah,
like
yeah. Not
you went
not
to
yeah, not the
Piedmont
islands.
or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, this is this is I think where the university is at, right? Libertad San Martin. Would that be the
Well, that's the street, I think, right? I don't know. I didn't go to that school, bro.
municipal? It covers Entre Rios. I think it's a municipalidad, so it's in the Entre Rios
Oh, so it's like
province.
the
This
province that
the
is
area, yeah.
la provincia.
La provincia
Yeah,
te
I don't really
invita a
know.
volver.
If
Whatever.
there's
Well,
if there's anyone from Argentina watching this, I am so sorry.
wait, but your dad, mom, no, or it's Uruguayo that they're.
Yeah, no, my dad's from Argentina. My mom is from Paraguay. They met in Argentina. They actually went to that college,
Okay.
um, but I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I gotta ask my mom. But yeah, we're drinking mate. That's keeping us going throughout the day. But yeah, we've actually been going, as you can see in our background, Women's History Month, and so we want to highlight women. And so we're going through the book of Ruth. And last week we talked about Ruth 1, very powerful. This one is shaping up to be a telenovela. When I was reading it this morning, I was like, so we're going into Ruth 2, and yeah, kind of seeing what's going on up until this point. If you weren't with us last week, Naomi and Ruth and Penina lose their husbands, and long story short, they're in Moab. Naomi decides to go home. She says, "You guys are free to go." Ruth says, "I'm going to go wherever you go," and so now they're getting back to Bethlehem, where they had left before because of the famine, and we'll see what ends up happening there. So I actually have, and we're going to try to do this now here and just read it from here so people can
Hey,
follow along. Look at that. And then you can change it up. I can do that thingy. I don't get this one that much because you can't really see though.
yeah, I don't really understand why they did
wonder-
that one that way.
Yeah, I don't know. But we'll see. All right. So it says in Ruth chapter 2, verse 1, we're gonna read first couple verses 1 to 3. Now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor." Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So she went out and entered a field and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. So we're going to hold it there, but interesting happening. they're there. She says, I'm gonna go to the fields, pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes I find favor. And she says, go do it. Um, interesting here, right? Is we just left out in the last chapter of like, you know, they just arrived in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning, right? That's kind of like the cue of like, all right, that's probably important. And the very next thing is that Ruth gets up and says, hey, look, there's some fields. It's barley harvest. We can go and maybe get grain for ourselves and see if there's any left over. And it so happens that the author of Ruth gives us this insight before we even are told what's the plan is, saying, hey, look, there's a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz, right? It's just a random fact. We don't really talk about it until a little later. When Ruth goes to the field and finds out that she's actually working at the field and picking up grain at the field of Boaz. So it's really small world. Yeah, any thoughts, Brian, here? If not, I'll share mine off the top of my
Um,
head.
just that the author is pretty repetitive in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, relative Boaz from the clan of what's his name? Elimelech, right?
Yeah,
And then it's like 2 seconds later, Boaz from the clan of Elimelech, who was
yeah.
a relative of theirs. Um, just reading off the little side notes here on my Bible, right? So I always read that. I always look at those little texts there, and it jumps over to chapter 3, where it also talks about how Boaz is, their relative.
Mm-hmm.
But what was interesting is that it highlights verse 12 of chapter 3, where Boaz is talking, and he's saying, although it is true that I am a guardian redeemer of your family, there is another who is more closely related than I. And so going back to chapter 2, if there was the closest relative, would it be the one who would kind of take on the head of the household role, especially when it comes to like widows? And so he would be the one that's being the caregiver and providing protection and shelter and food and all these things for these women. And apparently they didn't have enough food. Apparently they weren't being provided for, because it says, hey, I'm going to go, dude, I'm going to go see if we find someone else's favor because this guy is not doing it for us. And I found that really interesting because when it comes to the way just daily life, we proclaim ourselves to
That's a good point.
like certain roles within society, within our home structures or whatever, and we say we're those things, but do we actually do what those things require? And we tend to define ourselves as something without necessarily showing that we are that something. And I guess when it comes to even when it comes to like something like marriage, you say, okay, I'm the husband, and that's it. I'm the husband. Okay, yeah, but what does that involve? What does that do? Or you have to play a certain role within that relationship. And so this guy wasn't doing it. And I think that not just in society but also within our own churches, we're oftentimes really worried about the title that we have within church, or the position, and we worry a lot less about what that actually entails
That's good.
for us to do. And so this guy wasn't doing it, and I think it's a wake up call for a lot of us who say we're something and don't
And
really
to
live
step
up to
up and do something. Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Dude, that's a good thought. I didn't think about that. Right. That they were probably in that guy, that we find later in chapter 3, the other guy's field or household, right? Because he's taking care of them. He's the closest one that's supposed to be, hey, your family, your blood of my blood. All right, you guys can stay with me. And the fact that they're coming to this point where Ruth is like, hey, we don't have anything to provide for ourselves. And so I'm going to go out and see if there's any field that we can go out. And they're literally, this is kind of the beautiful provisions of the Old Testament in Leviticus, right? Where, and I'm just going to read out, here in my Bible, Leviticus 19, where God is just telling the new people that have just left Egypt, kind of how to live and how to not be evil like the people of Egypt were. And he says in Leviticus 19, verse 9.
Hmm.
Am I there? Yeah, it says, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. The gleanings would be considered just the leftover, whatever was left over,
Yeah.
when the farmers would go through it and pick up all the, anything that fell, or yeah. I don't know if you have any word on gleanings there, if you had worked in the fields like that.
Uh,
No?
no, I guess yeah, it's just like whatever, like you're picking up a stack of things, and
Yeah.
obviously, like some things are bound to slip your hands, and
Hmm.
so whatever didn't make it into like, like I always think of Joseph's movie, the one about like Prince of Dreams or something like that,
Hmm.
where you have all this like hay being like tied up,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and so whatever, you're doing that really quickly, and whatever doesn't make it into that stack and
yeah,
on the floor stays there,
yeah, yeah.
basically.
Yeah, and it's cool because here it says, he says, look, whenever you do that and you harvest, do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. And you might be like, man, that's a waste. But the reason he says is because you need to leave it. He says here, leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God, right? So it's this always looking out for the other person and saying, hey, don't be so, I don't know. It's just always leaving space for those that don't have as much as you do, and being willing to allow others to benefit from your own crops, and saying, hey, you got to leave a section of it, or don't go over it twice. Pick up as much as you can, but whatever is left, leave it for other people. So she's claiming she's kind of living in that reality that they were practicing, thankfully, at that time around this Judges period. And she's going to fields to pick up whatever was left over after the workers and the ranch hands and all that had worked and picked up all that. And so it turns out that the field she's working out is Boaz's field, which, as we'll see, is a great man, that will be there. So it's pretty cool, right? How the laws are really you can see it really play out in favor of the main people in this story, and how they're benefiting from what God had designed to be something to take care of the poor and the widows and the least fortunate.
Yeah, I'm gonna add on to that and say
Yeah.
that Boaz was probably one of the only guys who still practiced this, because if
Ooh,
you
yeah.
go back to Judges, you
Mm-hmm.
read Judges, man, that book is crazy. The amount
Yeah.
of things
Yeah.
that happen there, all the evil that goes on, even the guys that are good guys aren't totally good.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and here, when you get to and right after the book of Ruth, you have Samuel, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even when you start reading Samuel, you see that the priest in charge of everything that has to do with religion and God, even his household is a mess, and they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so, with all this like evil that's already going on in this book, you have the book of Ruth, where honestly, like when you see that Boaz is practicing the things that
That's a
the law
good point.
says for
That's
you
a
to
good point.
practice, he's probably one of the only ones that are still doing this.
That's a
And
great point.
so probably Ruth is not going to be the only foreigner or the only widow that's going to go
Mm-hmm.
to that field.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, and that's because I was just thinking, this is during the Judges period, the end of Judges. The book finishes with like everyone did everyone did as they saw it. Literally, the last verse of the book of Judges. It's kind of like in Spanish, right? Como le daba la gana. You do whatever you want. I don't really care. And to think that Boaz still does that, is pretty powerful, and a testament to him, to show that. I think like you were going back to that point, right? Of how we as followers of God can still be different, even though culture and society live in a way that maybe is not, maybe if you want to say, morally acceptable or in line with the Bible. We can still
Right.
be that difference. Like our field can be the one that still practices the Torah or the law and the principles of the law, where we can still, though nobody else does it, we can be the ones that help
Yeah.
benefit others.
No, we have to create those spaces of influence,
Hmm.
right? Because that's what Boaz was doing. That was his field,
Hmm.
and so he decided to do that for his field. You know, whatever
Yeah.
your field is, that's totally up to you.
Oh, that's the sermon there. That's it. Whatever your field is. Beautiful. All right. And so we continue here in verse. We're going to read a couple more verses, obviously, on this idea of the field. So then, let me share it here. Sorry. So then in verse 4, just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem. Oh, where are we then? If it's not Bethlehem, doesn't really say where we're at. But he arrives from Bethlehem, or maybe two Bethlehems, and he greeted the harvesters, right? And this is pretty cool. It just shows you what kind of man he is. It says, "The Lord be with you. The Lord be with you." And they all answer, "The Lord bless you." Kind of seems kind of corny. Kind of those. It kind of seems like a Disney movie where kind of think of the opening part of Beauty and the Beast, right? Where Belle is singing and everyone's like, "No, no, 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 no," and everyone's whatever. So yeah, she's like, "The Lord be with you," and they're like, "The Lord bless you." And this, with that context that you were sharing, Brian, if he's the only one, maybe one of the only fields in Bethlehem that is still doing this, they're all grateful to be there, right? Whether they work there or they're just being able to profit off of the whatever is left behind. So Boaz asked the overseer of his harvest, "What does that young woman?" Here's the telenovela part. "What's that young woman belong to? Who does she belong to?" The overseer replied, "She is the Moabite." And it seems like they know, right, about Naomi, and that she is the one who came back from Moab with Naomi. And she said, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters," right? So she's again claiming the law of the Torah of just allowing whatever's left behind to be picked up by them. She came into the field and has remained here from morning until now, except for a short rest in the shelter. So Boab said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting, and follow along after the women. After the women, sorry. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you," right? So on top of being obviously a wealthy man with a field, he's a generous man, but he's also mindful of the power dynamics. And he's like, "I've told him not to lay a hand on you. And whenever you're thirsty, go and get drink from the water jars that the men have filled." So she's also providing for her. At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground, understanding the implications of this and how amazing this was to hear from a man. She asked him, why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner?" Right up to this point, you kind of forget that she is a foreigner. She's not from those people. So it could be really easy for even those picking up in there to be like, "Hey, you're not even someone that's poor from our land. Like, you should be the last of the last to pick up the scraps." And she says, "Why are you taking such notice of me?" And Boaz replied, "I've been told all about what you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with a people that you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you've done. May you be richly blessed by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord," she says. "You have put me at ease by speaking kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servants, because I am a foreigner." At mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come over here, have some bread and dip it in the wine vinegar." That's a good pickup line. If anybody's single watching this, that's a, "Hey, you want to go out to eat and or do a Zoom date, and I'll give you some bread and dip in the wine vinegar." When she sat down with the harvesters, he offered her some roasted grain. She ate all that she wanted and had some left over. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his men and said, let her gather among the sheaves, and don't reprimand her. Even pull out some stalks for her from the bundles and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her." So Ruth, and we'll stop there. And yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here. A lot to unpack here. But I think that you just see the kind of type of guy that Boaz is, right? He's just, whether we could say he's trying to he sees a foreign woman recently divorced, he's like, "All right, this is my time to get married," or who knows if you got to say. But from what it seems, he seems to be a very credible and upright man, right? As we saw, he was still following the Levitical laws. He was, when he shows up, all his workers say hi, and they pronounce blessings on him. So it kind of shows that he has this. He's, I think of Job too, right, where he's just a man that is upright, that is loved in his community. And Ruth, thankfully, by God's provision, ends up on his field, where it could have been a total different story if she would have ended up in a different place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boaz was
So
a good boss.
I mean, I stand corrected because apparently there were other fields that did this.
Yeah,
Um,
but it
uh,
could be that it wasn't. There were other fields, but they probably weren't as protective over. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
yeah, I get what you're saying because here they even have a shelter to take rest.
And then and the fact that he says, "Hey, look, even to his men, and there, don't let anybody, put a finger on you, and hey, don't go anywhere else." Obviously, he's maybe at this point saying, "Hey, I could see some romantic, things growing up, but who knows what the conditions would have been in different fields."
Um, yeah, and so I think that that's where I'm getting at is the fact that um, maybe he saw that things weren't really going Ruth's way. Um,
Hmm.
maybe he saw like, oh, that's all you picked up today, and my men just told me that you were here all day from morning,
Yeah.
and that's all you have.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I guess in a way, it's easy for us to give up on things when it doesn't happen the way that we expected it to,
Yeah.
when we're not being provided for the way that we expect to be. And so
Hmm.
I feel like Boaz, in that sense, comes up to her. It's like, "Hey, don't give up on this field, right?
Right.
Don't give up. We're gonna help you out."
Hmm.
And I mean, there's a lot of parallelism between Boaz and God and how
Yeah.
God treats
Yeah.
His people for
Yeah.
sure. But one of the things that I saw there was like the fact that, man, we, at least I am so prone to giving up when I don't see some kind of result. I'll quickly say, all right, move on. All right, it didn't work. Boom, next thing. Um, and here, Boaz, I think, realizes that she might want to move on to another field and try to
Mm.
test other fields out to see how they do
Yeah, because she
and
might get
how.
more. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Because like she keeps saying, I'm a foreigner. I don't really know what's the best field for me to go and pick up what's left over.
Hmm.
And so Boaz is like, you didn't have your best day today, but it's okay. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Continue coming to this specific field. Continue coming to my field.
Hmm.
And so I think that in a way that's God's argument too. He's like, hey, I know that
Hmm.
things right now aren't working in your favor, aren't working on
Hmm.
your behalf.
Hmm.
I know that you're not getting your way. I know that um, your prayers haven't been answered the way that you wanted them to. I know that you're going through a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I know that you're tired, that
Hmm.
you've been trying to take a break. And even within that break, you're looking at what you've done and it's not enough
Mercy.
in
Mercy.
your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But listen, stick with me just a
Hmm.
little while longer, and I'll show you what you can reap. And so I think that is kind of like what Boaz kind of told her in a way, and what I feel God telling me,
Hmm. That's
at
good.
least in this story, in that section, because we read a bunch of verses. So
Yeah, that's a lot.
that's my first take.
Dude,
Obviously,
yeah, I
other things.
love that, bro. I love that application of Boaz being, a representation of God, um and really going over and beyond what he needed to be right. All he had to do was just, hey, yeah, okay, you're allowed to glean here and
Yeah,
pick up whatever is left. But then he goes on beyond and he's like, hey, first of all, look, I'm going to take care of you. I realize you are, and he gives the reason, right? Beyond it being romantic desire at this point, it's just like, I've heard what you did for your mother-in-law and how you've stuck with her. And so because of because of the life that you've lived, I want to bless you because you've inspired me. So, like he says, verse 12, may the Lord repay you for what you've done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, right? So there's also this element of that faith of saying, hey, your actions are just ones that I hope God continues to bless you and leads you. And yeah, I think it's beautiful. I mean, he says, don't go anywhere else. Stay here. I've told my men not to lay a hand on you. Whenever you're thirsty, go get a drink from the waters. And it just seems like it keeps getting better, right? You hear
yeah,
something, and sometimes people promises you, hey, this is free, it's on us, or hey, you can go on this vacation. Hey, don't worry about it. And you're like, this is just too good to be true. And it just keeps getting better and better. And it's like, okay, you know what? Actually, just stay here. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna ask my people to just, even take out what we stored, what my actual people have stored, so that you can take from that as well, and pull some of the stocks out from the bundles, let her pick that up. And you're just thinking like, all I wanted was permission to be able to pick up the leftovers, and here you are giving me what you've actually chosen for yourself,
Right.
which is a beautiful just picture of God's desire to share with us what even he has, right? What we have no right to. This whole idea of her even being in the field is an act of mercy from Boaz, that's saying, hey, you're allowed to do that. And he goes beyond that. And I just think it's beautiful how he treats her, though a foreigner, and everyone know, she's probably walking around and everyone's like, kind of like Beauty and the Beast, right? Where she's like, oh, that's Belle. Oh, she's walking, it's the same. Oh, that's Ruth, that's the Moabite, and Bethlehem may be a smaller town, not a lot of action going on, and here's a Moabite with Naomi, and everyone knows this is, so everyone sees her, and they probably, they have, like we've said, and we've seen throughout the Bible, a lot of maybe prejudice and hatred and racism as well. And yet he says, hey, you're pretty much part of my family, and you're going to benefit even more than even my hired people, because I'm looking favorably on you.
Yeah.
And I think there's a piece that comes from knowing that the owner of the field desires your well-being, and not just, and it desires you individually, right? You're not just a random hire, person that's just there. They're just like, no, I need you to come, and not just that, but have dinner with me. And I'm going to give you, that pickup line, come dip some of your bread in, in the wine vinegar. And they sat down. He offered her roasted grain, and she could have all she wanted, and still had some left over. And so that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And the reason it's happening, right, Seba, I think is there in verse 11, where like she's like, oh, I'm a foreigner, how did you find all this, good grape or whatever for me? And Boaz is like, I've been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and homeland and came to live with people you did not know here. May the Lord repay you, right, for all that you've done. And I'm reminded of like this quote. So I'm a big fan of all these like movies that have like swords and like sword fighting scenes. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm a sucker for those things.
Yeah.
So, Gladiator and all this stuff. But like one of those good ones, or at least the ones that I like, it has like zero historical accuracy, but Kingdom of Heaven, right, with Orlando Bloom, Liam Neeson, all these guys, and something that
that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm just remembering.
Yeah, something that the like second in command of the Islam forces, right, says to Orlando Bloom's character before he leaves, because apparently he owes him his life, so in servitude. And Orlando's like, nah, bro, just leave. You're good. I had to Google the actual quote. So he says to him, your quality will be known among your enemies before ever you meet them, my friend, he says, right? So your quality will be known among your enemies before ever you meet them. And I was like, dang, that's a really good line. But then when you come and you see a story like this, where Boaz knew Ruth's qualities before he ever actually met her, because of what others had told him about her story, speaks loudly, not only to Christians, but to, everyone really, where it's like, what are the chances of you ending like your dream job? Sometimes it comes down to people being able to speak highly of you, more so than your experience or what you put on your resume. And so
that's good.
Yeah. And so I think that it just applies to all of life, where people, and even myself, like I'll be more generous. I'll be willing to give more to something that I know is spoken highly of, And so we often wonder, like, oh, why are, like, speaking as pastors here, right? Oh, why are like tithes and offerings dwindling and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, are you providing something that people hold to be valuable and true, and to say this speaks of like something higher, of a good character, things like that. So I think that when it comes to churches, we have a lot to fix. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but that's one of the things that speak to us and say,
Yeah.
hey, how do unchurched people look at this church, look at
Mm-hmm.
this religion? Why do they see it that way? you know
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and in a way, I think that the gospel of Jesus just kind of calls us to be different. Not different as in parting ways with our community or our world, but different as we live in
Mm-hmm.
there. Like, yo, we should have a character where our enemies know our qualities before they ever meet us, or in this case,
That's powerful, bro. Yeah.
our ruler, right, or our higher ups know our qualities before they ever actually get to meet us, put a face to the person, the name that they've been talked about. But yeah, I thought that was really
Dude, that's
cool.
powerful, bro. That's a powerful application because it really seems that because of her, if we take that quote and just use it here, right? If because of her quality or her character, her life, God was even able to bless her more because she was faithful in everything else, right? And so I think it speaks to that how many times we want God to bless us, but we're not really living the life that really allows us to, I don't know, if we set us up for God to bless us ultimately to the extent that he wants us to. But when we're actually following God and living the life that he wants us to, um, I feel like that opens up doors that God can then use and say, hey, look, he's going to use people to bless you, and they're going to bless you because you've been a blessing to others, right? And it's just a beautiful, I think, image there of the reality of our life and our walk with God, where our lives speak volumes, and then because of our faithfulness to God and to others and our love to others, God is able to bless us richly, or even more richly, because of that.
Yeah, and I think that it even, I guess, it spoke a little bit louder to Boaz, because I'm assuming, right, that Ruth was just like this beautiful girl,
Yeah.
um, and just like way too young to be a widow, um, and she had all the not only all the right, but um, she had all the qualities, I guess, to remarry perfectly fine, and she didn't have to take care of Naomi. And so for him to be able to see not only that, um, different for someone to be, oh, you're doing that because you have, versus, oh, you're doing that because you're actually sacrificially like wanting to, and you love that person. And so the quality that comes out here, at
Yeah.
least the one
Yeah.
that we spoke about last chapter, right, last week,
Mm-hmm.
was this loving kindness, right? This has
Mm.
said about you just like totally loving and giving
Mm-hmm.
for a person
Mm-hmm.
without expecting something
Yeah.
like in return, which is a character of God that Ruth has, a Moabite who isn't like an
Yep.
Israelite or a godly perhaps women, and here she is taking care of Naomi. And Boaz sees this, man. He sees this quality. You can't hide it. You can't hide it when you genuinely are filled with this like loving kindness towards people. And in a way, we've lost that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've lost that. And when we do try to do for people, it's like, oh, I hope they get baptized. It's like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's not the reason you should be doing something for someone. um, and Ruth wasn't doing this for Naomi simply because, oh, I'm gonna get something out of it, or I'm gonna feel fulfilled from it. It's like, that wasn't a fulfilling task.
Right. Dude, that's good, man. I think, yeah, like you said, it's a rebuke because someone that was not, we would say, of the people of God at that point, because she was a Moabite, represented God's character more clearly than most people in Bethlehem did, right? So it's kind of the idea, right? You're talking, those outside the church may show God more clearly than those inside it. And Paul talks about it too, and we talked about it in Romans, right, where the Jews thought they were all holy because they had the oracles of God or the law. They had, the right date of worship or the law, and he's like, yo, you guys are doing this worse because you know better and you're not doing it fully. And these people out here are actually fulfilling the law and living better than you are. And here you are condemning them. But in condemning them, you are condemning yourself, right? So beautiful picture there of Ruth and how godlike she was in the character in her character. And Boaz kind of reciprocates that and says, you know what, that's maybe a desire for me to really show God's character and love and care to a foreigner and really.
Oh yeah, I know for sure. I mean, look at verse where is it? I think it's verse 16. Like we're reading the story, and you're like, "Wow, Boaz is giving so much," but he's not giving it like for free. It's like even pull out some stocks for her from the bundles, and leave them for her to pick up, and don't rebuke her. But basically, like Ruth still had to do the work.
Right,
Like it
right, right,
wasn't like, "Oh, I'm giving you this blessing for free. Just sit on the couch, relax. I'll have one of my workers
yeah, yeah.
grab this stock for you, and then you
And
you
you,
know
yeah.
what." Why you have to walk with it home, have him take care of it. It's like, no, like, yo, you're gonna be like, your back is gonna be aching. You're still gonna pick up all the stuff. We're
Mm-hmm.
just gonna leave it in excess so that you have more accessibility to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that sometimes when we pray to God, it's like, God, give me the stuff. That's it. God's like, I'll make it available to you,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, come on,
Yeah,
Brian,
yeah,
you're more than able to
yeah,
go and pick,
yeah.
the barley or whatever harvest on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
It's right
have
there.
to
Yeah, yeah. Right.
magically give you like a gift card. Like, go apply for a job. That's a simple example. I know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we're living in difficult times, that many jobs to apply for, but that it's just an example.
yeah. Oh, no, I like that. I think that's a good, and even it kind of reminds me of James too, where it's like Boaz could have been like, "Hey, may God's favor and blessings be on you. I hope that He blesses you, and you're able to find a field that, and and a man to marry." Kind of like James says, right? If you see someone that's cold and home, like, yo, you provide what they need. It's like give to them what you have out of your what you have out of the blessing that you have. And so he could have easily said, "Hey, man, you're a great," and we do that too, right? You're a great person. Um, I hope God blesses you in what you're looking for. All right, we'll see you later. And you just go on
Yeah.
your way, and you're like,
Let,
"Oh,
let me let me pray for you.
let me
God,
pray for you."
give them
Yeah.
this, and it's like,
God, we're claiming that today, and you're like, yo, you have the ability and the means to be able to provide what they're looking for and what they're needing. And so, yeah, he definitely goes over and beyond. I mean, he
we
could have
we
still
mask,
said, hey, move in
Sarah,
here.
we
Huh?
mask a lot of our shortcomings with
Oh,
faith.
yeah, yeah,
We say, I'm not going to provide this for you, but if you have faith, God's going to provide it for you. And it's like, why can't you provide it?
yeah. And
And
not
he
just, yeah,
excuse by
yeah.
using faith and prayer as a way out for us not to have.
That's good, man. And I think we mask like laziness and selfishness too, right? Because we're like, God will provide for you from what He has, right? From the abundance of the storehouses that He has. Not, I don't need to feel the sacrifice because God has, and it's, or even just laziness. Like I just don't want to have to deal with this, right? And I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Even as a pastor, people ask me like,
Bro,
you
I
know,
love that you say that though, because it's like, oh no, out of the abundance that God has. And then we
mhm.
forget that if, we're Christian, we believe that everything we have is God's. And so what makes us think that what we have isn't part of the abundance that
Yes, dude,
supposedly he
yeah,
has, in his treasures? It's like,
mhm.
well, I'm not saying that God, and I don't believe that God operates this way where he takes a blessing from someone to give that
Right.
blessing.
It's not like a pie. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not how he operates. But I'm just
right.
saying, it's like, if everything you have, supposedly you believe that is God's, then why would it hurt to give
Hmm.
some of God's stuff to someone else?
Right,
Do
right,
you think that would make God upset? No. It'll
right.
make you upset. It'll make you freak out, get all anxious, like, how am I going to pay my bills now?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's literally what happens with the servant that buries his talents, right? It's kind of like, no, God blessed me with this, so I haven't really thought about it that way. Yeah, I can't bless others because, well, what's God gonna, I mean, he's blessed. This is what God gave to me. And the
yeah.
other people are like, no, we're gonna invest this and we're gonna pour it out. And when you use your when you're able to bless others and enrich others and help others, you and then your blessings kind of grow in the math of God. And so
I mean, that makes total sense because it doesn't really say, the parable doesn't say what they invested in. They could have invested in people.
right, that's true. Yeah.
But yesterday I was having a conversation um, with some people over Zoom, and one of the things that we were talking about was how Jesus performed his miracles, and the way that he went about it, there was a conversation that happened. Jesus was on his way to somewhere, and someone would always interrupt him, and the conversation would be like, "Oh, Jesus, help me," right? And then Jesus would be like, "Yo, okay, cool. What do you need? What? Tell me what you want, right?" And they would say, "Okay, this is what I want," and Jesus's miracle would be providing them exactly what they wanted. Um, and I think that here, when it comes to Boaz, that's what Boaz is doing for Ruth. Is like he sees exactly what Ruth wants, what Ruth needs, and he provides that for her to have. And yeah, I mean, if that's how Jesus worked his miracles and that's how Boaz works, like, why aren't we doing that right now, right? So, like, yo, we should be asking those questions like, what do you want? Oh, I want this.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
let me pray for you. It's like, hold on, let's find ways that we can help you.
yeah. Let's connect you with yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I like that. That's powerful. And I mean, but what the thing is, again, it goes back to that, and it requires investment and time, which most of us don't want to give. Which I mean, I'm being honest for myself. Many times you're like, I wish you wouldn't have told me your need because now I feel guilty that I'm not that I have to be the one because we know, like you said, everything comes from God, but
Yeah.
I may have the means or connections to be able to bless and help you. And so if we were able to just, if our communities knew as a church or as pastors or leaders that we're always trying to find solutions and connect you with answers to your problems, um, then maybe we'd be known better in our communities. They'd be like, hey, you got to go there because they're really going to hook you up. And like Boaz did, regardless of who you are, whether you are in the church or out of the church, a literal foreigner from the Moabites, right? Like, it doesn't matter who you are. We're going to help out and love you and be able to
Yeah.
provide you with what you need.
It also speaks of Ruth because she's not the typical widow would go there to pick up food for herself. I'm
Mhm.
assuming, or for
Or the
her
kids, yeah,
daughter
whatever.
or
Yeah.
something. Because if not, then they would have a son and they would be okay.
Hmm.
But when it came to Ruth, she was picking up for two widows, right? Um, and by herself, right? It wasn't
Hmm.
that was coming to pick up for herself. And so I think that same aspect of service that you were just bringing out there, Seba, speaks highly of Ruth again and of women in general. That they are more willing to serve than men. Like if you go to any church today and you see how many people are actually involved in service or discipleship or mentoring
Hmm.
or leadership, whatever, you'll see that the women outnumber men like 10 to 1, and
Hmm.
all all the man, it's just coming, the worst is coming in Spanish. uh
Say it. We'll
all
find
the
it.
like all the people that are willing to actually serve and be part of the actions that the body of Christ makes, largely women. And it's, for some reason, women are just 1,000 times more spiritual than men are. And
Yeah.
yeah, we have a bunch more men elders. I don't understand that, but
That's true.
I,
That's true. That's
that's
true.
that's the honest truth. That's the honest truth.
That's the
Like
truth. Yeah.
they are more willing to serve. Um,
And give
yeah,
of their time, like, what we're saying here, right? Give of their time, really, you know, whether that be through prayer, through being involved in, essential things outside of, obviously, of some of the if you had if most of your pastors were men or whatever, or leaders or whatever, but everything behind closed, behind in the backstage, right? All the people that are working to make sure everything runs from week to week and people are being fed and taken care of. And, because as men, it's easy. I mean, it takes time to work on a sermon, but it's, you go preach, you're out, boom. But what takes time, is doing all the other stuff to make sure the church really runs as a family, and women play a crucial role. I mean, I'm trying to think of, of my experience in the church, and most of it is just there's elements and instances where women played a vital role, whether in a Sabbath school teacher or in leading out in some sort of Pathfinders activities or mentorship program, whatever it is. There was always a strong female woman, that a presence of a woman that was there, that was leading you forward. And then we think of our mothers too, that just have been blessings in that and pioneers in that. So
yeah.
yeah, pretty cool. Awesome. So here we go. The last portion here, verses 17 to 13. And it
17
says,
or to
oh yeah,
23.
yeah, 17 to 23. My bad. So it says, so Ruth gleaned in the field until evening, so all day. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an epaph, which is about 30 pounds or 13 kilograms. She carried it back to town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over after she had eaten enough, right? So from those roasted grain and all that. So she not only carries a bunch back, 30 pounds worth. Again, I wonder if Boaz could have been, hey, one of my servants is going to go provide and take this for you so you don't have to walk it home. But she walks it, she takes it, shows her mom, and her mother-in-law says, where did you glean today? Like, where did you work? Blessed is the man, be the man who took notice of you. So she can just tell, maybe Ruth was radiant, maybe, but I think just by the amount that she had, which was probably really unseen. And she's like, this would have taken maybe days for you to gather, and you got this in one day. So there must have been someone that noticed you. Then Ruth told her mother-in-law about the one at whose place she had been working. She said, the name of the man I worked with today is Boaz. And this is when the music, in the novela goes, dun, 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 and it's just like, oh man, this is the Boaz we've been talking about from the first verses. There is a guy here that is related, that has land, and he was a man of standing, a relative. So Naomi says, the Lord bless him. He has not stopped showing his kindness to the living and the dead, which I think is very interesting. I don't know if she's referring to herself as, we saw how she was really bitter before, or she's just saying the legacy of the dead. I'm not sure. That man is our close relative, and he is one of our guardian redeemers, which we can touch on. Then Ruth the Moabite said, hey, he even said to me, stay with my workers until they finish harvesting all my grain. Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it will be good for you, my daughter, to go with the women who work for him, because in someone else's field you might be harmed, right? This again shows the context and the culture of the day. Yeah, but so Ruth stayed close to the women of Boaz to glean into the barley and wheat harvests were finished, and she lived with her mother-in-law. So very interesting. At the end of every passage here, there's always kind of a resolution of what's going on. Chapter 1, they arrived in Bethlehem at the barley harvest, beginning of the barley harvest. Chapter 2, she's staying with her mother-in-law. So one of the first things that I think sticks out here is the novela like setup, right? I don't know how many of you like novelas or sitcoms or TV shows. And that to me is beautiful, how the Bible really has the greatest TV shows of all, just the suspense. Obviously, we're not privy to all the details and things that are going on in the story here. But here she is, and just powerful. She shows up. I can imagine the mother-in-law saying like, where did you get all that stuff? And she's like, oh, the man, his name is Boaz, and he's provided for me, and Naomi recognized and said, this guy is our close relative. He's one of the guardian redeemers. So stay there, because, if you worked in another field, you could be harmed. And so she ended up working there until the harvests were finished, and she lived with her mother-in-law. So pretty powerful. I'm actually going to look up what Boaz means in the Bible.
Sorry,
Boaz. No, you're good, bro. You're good, bro. I was just
a lot of mate, so
yeah. Swiftness, maybe. I don't know. But no, I was just saying how just the novela, sitcom or drama that this story has, right? And just the build up to this, and
dude, I like a couple things.
Yeah.
Just from what you read, it says there that, and you mentioned it while reading, that Naomi's like, yo, where'd you go? Because like, there's no way in heck you would have gathered all this. Someone definitely found favor in you.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that she doesn't just bring a lot of this stuff that she picked up. Because typically, she's not like she brought all the groceries home.
Right.
She brought the groceries and a meal, like already
Right, right,
prepared,
right, right.
already set. And so they didn't even have to cook that day. You know,
Mhm.
I feel like she was like, "Hey, dude, I brought all the groceries, but I also brought, some pizza you can have right
Right.
now." And I really enjoy that about the movie because the provision is made more than
Mm.
enough,
Mhm.
and even it's made comfortable. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
provisions were made and now I have to do the work to be able to, make this into food, but
Mhm.
provisions were made to the point where here's food for, the week, and also here's a meal for right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I thought that was really, really, really neat.
That's good, man, that's good. Yeah, just how, you think of all the other stories where God provides, I think of Elijah and the widow and where they get more than enough, right? And so it's always like God doesn't leave you lacking. Sometimes when we try to fulfill someone's need, it's just a little bit, but he's like in it. He thinks about every aspect of it. So you get home and it's like, all right, we have this, we can sell it, but then we got to get, we'll have money to buy food. But now it's like, oh, you're
Dude,
good. There's food for the evening.
Boaz is probably like, yeah, you know what? Let's just do a lot more food so that you can take some to Naomi.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she's probably not gonna want to cook when you get home.
Right.
And I don't want you to have to go through the trouble of cooking for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
I really enjoy that part. And I also
Yeah.
like the way that Ruth describes what she was doing.
Hmm.
It says here that the name of the man I worked with
Hmm.
today is Boaz. Um, she didn't say, work for, or, whatever the
Good, good, good.
say that is. And so I love that she says, the man I worked with. And man, it just seems like a lot of times we make people feel like they're working for us in the
Mm-hmm.
way that we're providing service to them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it seems like Boaz, he would get down and he would do
Mm-hmm.
the work with a lot of
He would
these.
be with yeah, with the workers. Yeah.
Yeah, he would do, and that's probably why they respected him so much. That's why at the beginning they all greeted him like he was like some kind of general. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they said, he might have said like I don't know, something with
Mm-hmm.
like some kind of motto or something. They were like, "Oh, hoorah!" That's what it sounds like. Um, so
Bethlehem on 3. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So,
No, I
uh,
like that. That's good, bro.
so man, it just really shows who Boaz
What the
was,
type of man. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that he didn't just make that provision for Ruth, but
Mm-hmm.
he was
For
in.
Naomi too. Yeah. He's thinking beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I really enjoyed two parts there.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think Boaz is a great case study on I guess good leadership. Not just in being caring and having a watchful eye. Because when he asked that first question to the overseer, who is that? He could have been like, oh, okay, cool. We get people, we get foreigners all the time. All right. But he has like a watchful eye and he's aware of what's going on in the city, Um, and like you said, right, it's interesting that the same greeting that, when they say, he said he shows to his to the harvesters and he says, Lord be with you all. And they all say, the Lord bless you. And it's the same thing that Naomi says, the Lord bless him. Right. And so it really is a case study on his leadership, how you're saying, not only is he generous and caring, but it seems as though he is really one that works alongside the people that he's lead, which is a true, motto of Christian leadership, which is one that you're working from the bottom up and you're not being served at the top. And we saw what happens when people think that they're the pinnacle on the top. We saw most recently with Ravi Zacharias, and when that power dynamic, when people lift you up, which can be really easy as a pastor or leader to be like, oh, it's the pastor. Oh, you careful, um, it can be really easy to get to your head. But here Boaz is like, yeah, I might be, I'm blessed to have what I have, but I'm not going to allow that to make me trample over other people and not be one that serves and works alongside with people. So that's beautiful. It really speaks to Boaz, and it's really highlighting the characters of these people. And I like how even Naomi, right, she comes at the end of chapter 1, she's like, don't call me Naomi, call me call me bitter. I'm just like bitter with life. I'm upset. She's probably a little older, so she's probably not as energetic as Ruth is to be able to go out and pick stuff. So she's staying home. I don't know how old she is. I don't know what, she may have been younger.
So she
whatever.
a Snickers bar.
Yeah, she had to have a snake, but she's at that point where she's home, and so and Ruth, and it's beautiful how God not only through Boaz, but God blesses Naomi through Ruth now, through a foreigner, with this, right, and Ruth's disposition to go back with her and help, and then go to the field that God orchestrates, that is Boaz's, that's related to the family, and is blessed in this situation. That so now Naomi is being blessed through Ruth, through someone that's not part of her her people, and she claims God has not stopped showing kindness to the living and the dead. And then she gives us the insight that this is a close relative. He's one of our guardian redeemers, which was the Hebrew word here. My notes say it's a legal term for one who has the obligation to redeem a relative in serious difficulty, which was another provision of Leviticus, that if you read in Leviticus 25 here, if someone was in trouble or had owed money or was poor, whatever, it was the duties of those, I guess, kind of like what we would consider now godfather, right? Godfather, godparents, that you're like, hey, you put them in your will or whatever, or they're there when you're blessing, you're doing a dedication for your child, and like, okay, if anything happens to the parents, you guys are in charge. Kind of in that same vein of, hey, if anything happens to our family, you have to step in and just provide because you're your family. And so we get more insight to, hey, not only is he a relative, but he's actually really in that lineup of a guardian redeemer who can really redeem us and take that role that our husbands played, but now they're gone. And so it's beginning to set up like, oh, wow, there might be even a bright future for Ruth and Naomi, that may not have to deal with Ruth going every day to glean and pick up harvest, because they have someone there that can really welcome them into his household.
Yeah.
Um,
So two things on what you said.
yeah.
One is, you know, the blessing, because he's shown kindness to the living and the dead. Obviously, he shows kindness to the dead, even though believe that the dead, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's honoring them, and so that's in the way, like, I feel like she's saying, like, she's blessing them because she's honoring their memory. He's honoring their memory by taking care of those that they left behind.
Yeah.
And about this, this redeemer, right, this guardian redeemer role that he plays, he's playing that role with other members of the family that he's responsible for. Technically, he's not responsible for Ruth and Naomi, and so he can't take on that role because there's already a family member that is closer to them than he is. And so he is limited by that in taking on that role for them. And I think we'll tackle that in the next couple of chapters, but she's saying, like, that's what he does for a lot of his family that are close to him. And so that speaks of his quality. And in a sense, he doesn't have to do that with us. He's not obligated to, but it seems like he's already taking on that role without any obligation.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And it's kind of like, I mean, because he could have easily said, hey, I'm in that lineup to be a guardian redeemer, but I'm not the closest one. So go to I mean, hey, there's someone else that can meet your needs, right? And even then, in that, he's still not. And I feel like we do that sometimes too. If we go back to the church context, we're like, hey, you got to go to this department. I'm sorry, we can't help you here because you got to someone else. And he's like, no, even though you're in line to be under him and this person, I'm still going to help out in whatever way I can. And really speaking volumes of Boaz, because he could have really easily been, he could have been, hey, I'm not responsible for you at this moment, and you got to go with the guy that actually needs to take care of you. So yeah, go do that. But beautiful here, guardian redeemer, and he's in line, and we'll figure out in the next chapters what that is. But yeah, she's just encouraged, hey, stay with Boaz, because again, in someone else's field, you might be harmed. And so whether that's because she's a foreigner or just because that's just the context of the day they're living in, as we saw with the judges, everyone's doing whatever they want. They're not really following what God had left for them to do. And so she's like, hey, you found a good place, stay there, and we'll see what happens there. And so she ends up saying, she lives with her mother-in-law, and she gleaned until the barley and wheat harvests were finished. So yeah, beautiful portions here.
Bro, it's a good story. It's a good story.
It really is. Yeah.
I'm looking at this verse, kind of it's a little weird,
Mhm.
verse 23.
Yeah.
Ruth stayed close to the women of Boaz, right? Um,
Hmm.
it's like, whoa, what does that mean? What does it mean by women of Boaz?
Who are these women? Yeah.
And I mean, it could be a couple of things. I haven't really looked into it, but
Right.
I'm assuming that it's other widows. Um, Also, I'm assuming that it could be uh, close relatives where you see in the story of Jacob's children, right? Particularly Judah, where he has to give his son in marriage, right? He has like three sons or something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
like the first son dies by sleeping with Ray. What's her name?
Not Tamar.
Yeah. It's
Tamar? Yeah.
Tamar. Um, and he dies, and then he gives his second child a son, and he dies, and so he's like, "Yo, I'm not
Hmm.
giving my third kid." And
Yeah.
so, in a way, it could be that Boaz kind of has to give these women like their sons, so that that name can live on.
Hmm.
It could be that as well.
Yeah.
I don't really know exactly what it means.
Yeah. Some other versions are saying young women. They kind of translate it as young women when I was looking. So
Yeah, I don't know if they're like concubines or something,
yeah,
or
yeah, family members or just people or yeah,
yeah. So yeah, something to look into. Uh,
yeah,
but even within all those like young women or women in general, Ruth really stood out.
yeah. And it kind of reminds me of Esther, right? Where the king is just all the women of the land are coming, and something sticks out about Esther among the whole crowd. Um, that really propels her to be the one that becomes the next queen. So, man, beautiful story, man. I mean, the funniest thing for me is just in all this is just that conversation with Naomi, right? Which is, I'm sure we've all felt that you try to get, whether you're hiding something or you're excited about something and you can't hide anything from your mom, even if you're on the phone, it's like, what's going on? And you're having a bad day. It's like, oh, mom, get up, tell me what's going. Or the same thing, you're trying to hide something and they just know, like, I know you're hiding something from me. What is it?
Yeah.
Uh, so it's funny to see that dynamic even here, kind of the humor there. And yeah, beautiful story here of God's providence and leading. And from a lot of hardship, how God is able to then, through the, good qualities and character of Ruth, God is able to set up this beautiful situation that we're starting to see unfold, where every need that they have is going to be met and provided for because of their faithfulness. First of all, because of her faithfulness simply to Naomi and her willingness to be a part of the faith and her people. And then that speaks volumes. And Boaz extends the same kind of faithfulness to Ruth. So we'll see what ends up happening in chapter 3. But good comment. It's a good book.
All good things, hopefully.
Good book. Yeah. All right. Let's go to our lightning round, and as we begin to wrap up here, we got 4 questions, so we'll see. And we don't have Gabe, so it's gonna be a lot shorter. Just kidding. No, we love you, Gabe. All right, WandaVision recap. What do you think? Did you watch the ending of it?
I did watch it.
What were your thoughts on
Um, it's probably triggering for a lot of people that have gone through serious loss,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, it kind of gave you an insight into grief
Yeah,
that
dude. I
you
know.
didn't
Yeah.
expect like a comic book to give.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I said I like 50 billion times, but I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, she won. Sorry if you didn't see it yet. Uh, she won, and so I was kind of psyched about that because I don't really know anything about this. I haven't really
Mhm.
read up on it. I was like, yo, no, she's gonna. Obviously, she's the hero, so she's gonna win. So I knew I got that part right.
Right, right, right.
Um, but yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it.
Good, bro. Yeah, yeah. No, no. I thought it was good too. I'm actually gonna see if I can. Oh, let me just share. I saw someone. I don't know if you remember Daniel Escalante from seminary.
Maybe you show me a picture. No
Yeah.
offense, Daniel.
Oh, let me just see. I'll just share. Yeah. Let me just. I'll share my screen. I'll show you. But he had. Oh, sorry, man. You guys are on my page here. But he put this. This Daniel. I don't know if he was there with us. Daniel Escalante. Well, long story short, we'll figure out. But let me see if I can find it. Maybe it wasn't on this. Well, that's Daniel, but he had a. Actually, it wasn't on his Facebook. Actually, but
Okay.
my bad. Let me actually share because I have it here. He shared this here, which I thought was pretty cool, interesting. The 5 stages of grief that WandaVision had, which I thought was pretty powerful, right? So you have like the beginning of it, if you haven't seen it, right, where she's living in the past and going through different things, and so she's in denial in that beginning portion, and then she goes into anger mode when people start breaking into her, her new reality, and then she has kind of the bargain where she's trying to kind of bargain with Vision of what's going on, and depression, what closer to the, I guess, the timeline where we're living in, and then finally acceptance, which is kind of the end of it too, where she's like, hey, this is the reality that I'm living in. So pretty interesting, like you're saying, right? You don't expect really a Marvel movie or show to really go deeply into this, but yet here we are. So pretty good. Yeah. So I thought, yeah, the ending was pretty powerful, of just saying, hey, this is life. And I kind of teared up at the end there, obviously like losing my dad recently, and just how, even though I don't have the power to create an alternate reality, you're at the end and you're thinking like, if you could, kind of, Monica, is it Monica? The other girl says that, right? If I had the power to bring my mom back, I would do so too. So it was kind of hard to, so hearing that, I was like, it's very powerful. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. All right. So we kind of talked about this before we went live. Where would you rather go viral? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Clubhouse, or Twitter? And I'm not asking why or like doing what, because we really don't know what we would want to do.
Going viral.
Yeah, where would you rather go viral? That's a tough one, yeah. Monetarily, I can say YouTube maybe, because
Yeah,
I think you get more money.
I was like, yeah, but then on YouTube as well, like if only one of your videos go viral, doesn't mean you're gonna get a bunch of subscribers.
Right.
Um,
I don't know if
so it's
people
like
get viral on Snapchat,
if
maybe.
one
I know
video went viral, but then your other video only has like 20 views. So it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
be like, yeah, this is just a one time, like
And
one.
and that kind of happens on TikTok a bit too, where you have, but I mean, you can still get a lot of likes and followers. And I don't know, monetarily, maybe YouTube, if you were able to have most of your videos go
Yeah.
viral, but
I honestly don't care which one I go viral on. Yeah, whatever.
yeah, I don't know either. TikTok might be, but it still takes work, to do your editing video. I mean, I look at some of the TikToks, I'm like, man, these people put in time. Like it's very well done.
Have people that put in
Or
time.
have people, yeah, that do yeah, and that kind of happens with all the big people. They already have people that are editing, whereas us, we're kind of playing with apps and stuff to see how we do that. So, all right. Third question of 4. Barca miss out on the comeback. What's next for Barca and Messi? I know this is I was wearing my jersey the whole day, just mourning, but
I mean, honestly, I think we played a pretty good game.
yeah, I was surprised.
I was shocked. There's a saying, at least in Spanish, that says to be a good goalkeeper, you can't just be good. You have to have a lot of luck as well.
Mhm.
And Navas had all the luck of all the goalkeepers in the world, all in one match.
Man, yeah, he really did.
Many opportunities. I genuinely liked how we played. It sucked that Messi missed that penalty.
Yep.
Going into halftime 2-1, I think it would have been a different game, especially if we scored at least one goal throughout the second half before the 90th minute, which would have made the last 5 minutes very interesting. Um, but it is what it is. We didn't play a horrible game. I do want Messi to leave Barcelona. I don't think that they
Mm,
deserve him. Um,
yeah.
he needs a team. Right now,
Mm,
what he has is just echoes of what a team used to be, and
mhm,
also kind of like foreshadows of what the team could be.
yeah.
But you're he's wasting his last few years of being at a really top
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
uh, before probably making a move to the MLS or something. Um,
Yeah.
he's wasting them there at Barcelona.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
yeah.
think that this new president could get them out of debt, out of the
To
humongous
be
debt
able to bring a good quality.
next year to bring like high quality targets
Mhm.
into the club. So we have some good players there at Barcelona.
Yeah.
We need a lot more.
Yeah.
We can't compete in Champions League. Um, I think we could have passed this round, but next round
Mhm.
was a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
If we everything would have been different if we were to come out first. I mean, one
Mhm.
we were going against Porto. It
Yeah.
was kind of like weird that Porto beat Juventus, but
Yeah, I was like surprised. Yeah, that surprised me too.
I ruled that out though because Juventus hasn't really been great in a long time. I
Mhm.
mean, not in a long time, but in a while.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was to be expected for me that Porto could pull out an upset there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think, man, just the first game conditioned us, and if we would have played the way we played
Yeah. Yeah.
first game, it would have been a completely different story. So that's our
Yeah.
coach's fault in a way as well. So yeah, sorry to be talking so much, but
No, yeah,
I
you're
don't
good.
think we missed out. I think it was a really good game, something to be
Mhm.
proud of.
Yeah.
Uh, what's next for Barca? Hopefully they split up, man. Messi goes somewhere else because
Yeah.
right now Barcelona is Messi, and that's unfortunate
Right.
for
Right.
Barcelona.
And I
Uh,
think yeah, that's true cuz before I mean, yeah, they really haven't helped him they haven't really given him help or another person or player that can really match his importance on the pitch, right? It's really been dominant on him and
who can
it's
he
hard.
give the ball to that
Right.
can score?
Yeah.
MLS
Man, when he
one
shot
goal.
yeah, yeah. When he
Griezmann is gonna be just like I don't know, a shot in the dark. You don't know. Whereas you don't know if he's gonna have a good game or a horrible game.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and Jordi
Dembele.
Alba really has been scoring more of the goals. Brad White, I mean, he's all right. He's not top tier striker though. He's not a top
Yeah.
tier striker. He hustles on that, but it is what it is. And
Yeah.
um, think
Dembele doesn't finish.
he still has grow. There's a clean finisher there
Mhm.
for Barcelona, so that really
Which
um,
Suarez was. That was their guy.
exactly, bro. Suarez is like neck and neck with Messi for most goals in La Liga. It's like, and you gave him for free to
Yeah.
Atletico Madrid, a top competitor. So
Yeah.
um, it's just stupid, and
Mhm.
he needs to go.
Yeah.
Messi needs to go.
Yeah, yeah, he needs to phase that go into a different phase and place. I mean, he can still I mean, when he blasted it from like half court, I was like, wow, like it just showed like to me because he doesn't usually take that shot. I haven't seen him take that shot probably since it would kind of reminded me, but he was further out to the goal he made versus what Manchester United in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was one of the
In the final, when he went like this, boom, and shot it to his.
yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't really usually go that. And for me, that was like he's just like, come on, I literally have to score from because he's been playing a lot more back. I have to score from back here because nobody's really creating here, and so we'll see. Yeah, I think it'd be nice for him to go somewhere else and still be the best player, but not have to do everything. Um,
Yeah, I also think that VAR needs to really look into
yeah,
what they call
consistency.
penalties. One, Barcelona's penalty. I don't think that was a penalty.
But
Um,
two, I didn't think PSG's penalty was a penalty either. I
but
mean, there was
and here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's so cutthroat, as in like, oh, you get touched inside the box like that, it's a penalty.
right.
But okay, let's take into consideration the fact that one, he wasn't going to make it to that ball.
Yeah, he was far away. Yeah,
He wasn't going to make it. Two, where's the player looking? like the defender? Is he actually actively trying to get the forward, or is he looking in another direction and the forward gets him, or whatever the case may be? And
Right.
so I think that intention has something to play with it, but as well as like, bro, he wasn't getting that ball.
Yeah, he was far
Be
from it.
honest
Yeah.
with one another. If the striker doesn't have the opportunity to get to the ball,
Mm-hmm.
why are we calling it a penalty? He
Yeah.
wasn't going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And they'll do that too. I think football's kind of like that too, where there if it wasn't a play in the ball, like there's not pass interference there,
yeah,
for a receiver and stuff. Like you really that pass that foul whatever really doesn't affect any part of the game because one, the intention wasn't there. He wasn't even looking. It was like incidental, and yeah.
yeah.
And I think that kind of knocked. I mean, that and then Messi's miss also just kind of like, oh man, they worked so hard that first half. Like it was just.
But here's what I loved about the game. Messi was great, everything. But what I loved about the game was that Mbappe was total trash. I love that, man, because man, he is so hyped up by everybody, and
He's just really fast, and I mean, he finishes. He finishes. I'll give him that. I mean, I wish Dembele had, because Dembele has his speed, but he doesn't have his finish necessarily.
yes, man.
But I
But
mean,
as far as like ability to take on like people, if he weren't fast,
yeah,
bye.
yeah,
So give him a few years when he
yeah.
slows down, and we'll see how his game changes. But for
But
right now, bro,
to put him in the same name as Ronaldo and Messi, yeah, yeah. He really didn't do much. He was just running and kind of jump,
I mean, I'll take
falling
it
down
over Griezmann and Dembele and
for
all the
sure.
other guys we have in Barcelona, but he's not all in all as what people portray him to be.
Yeah, that's true. All right, last question here. What are you gonna do? What are you doing with your stimulus check?
What am I going to do with my stimulus check? That's a personal question, sir.
All right, we're just
I don't know, honestly. I'm still thinking about it. I have no idea.
$1,400.
I'll stimulate the economy with it for sure.
Let's stimulate something. 1,400. That's nice though.
And the economy. I'll stimulate the economy with it. I'll go buy something.
Yeah.
Or pay for something.
Pay for something. Go buy something. Yeah. I like that. Awesome, bro. Great talking, man. And thank you those that were with us or are watching later. And I hope you guys have a good weekend. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.